When someone says Unturned, what comes to your mind? All the screaming children on arenas? Your GPU fan turning into a jet engine? Janky ass off-road physics? Pay to win 10 times loot servers? 9-year-old admins abusing their powers left and right? Broken guns like the Maple Strike? Optimization only rivaled by Cyberfuck 2076? Or maybe something else? Something positive? Like the first time you heard that funny noise when you punch a zombie. Or maybe the first base you've ever built. One of those funny as shit to our games videos from 2015? Your first arena win. Maybe all the cool friends you made while playing this game. That one time you're shitting on an entire server all by yourself. Or a very friendly interaction with a random player on a survival server you once had. Don't get me wrong, Unturned has a lot of problems. And yet, to this day, thousands of players have stuck with this game. People just like you and me. Despite all of this game's imperfections, we all had so much fun with it. Currently, I'm sitting on 2700 hours of playtime. To a normal human being, spending so much time on a single video game probably sounds absurd. And yet, there are probably many people watching this video who have played even more than I have. Many of us have been playing Unturned for many years, sticking with it through thick and thin. We've been growing up with this game, and it's been growing up with us. Once starting as a humble Roblox game, to now being what it is today. After all these years, all this time, everyone has experienced so many adventures, met so many new people. Have they played for 300 hours or 3000? Everyone has their own story. I never ask for shit like this, but if you feel like it, tell your own story with Unturned in a comment. You can even write a 2000 word essay if you feel like it. I can assure you that I'll gladly read that, and I think many others will too. This video is about my story, and just like any story, it has a beginning. It all started in 2014. It was summer and my cousin invited me over because he wanted to show me a new game. I knew that he had good taste for video games because 2 years earlier he showed me Minecraft. Anyway, he turned his computer on and fired up Unturned 2.0. I'm pretty sure it was the arena map, the 2.0 monolith. I asked him what this game was called. He told me that this game was boring and he actually wanted to show me Cube World instead. Despite the fact that the first adjective I have ever heard describing this game was boring, I still wanted to check it out for myself. So after coming back home, I fired up Steam and downloaded Unturned for the first time. I remember I spawned near the lighthouse, on the Summerside Peninsula. The first item I had ever found was a Schofield. After shooting a couple of zombies, I thought that this was the coolest shit ever. So the weeks went by, and I played this game a bit, but still mainly spent time on Minecraft, jumping into it every now and then, learning more and more. I also watched heaps of tutorials on this game. They were all in Polish though, as I didn't know English very well yet. So when September came around, I told my friend at school about that epic Minecraft zombie shooter game. This guy is called Captain Pumpkin. Keep this vegetable guy in mind as he becomes important later. Wait, it's a fucking fruit?! We didn't know how multiplayer worked, not to mention knowing how to host a server, so we were sitting for hours in a Skype call, both playing on our single player worlds, acting like we were playing together. Being 10 was something else, I'm telling you, man. Sometime later, I think that was somewhere around October or November, I started hearing about this new, upgraded version of Unturned. I was too retarded to realize how to access it though, so I just kept playing 2.0. Some pretty funny stuff happened to me while playing at the time. I remember building my base on the farm and putting spikes all around it and then killing myself on them many times over like an idiot. Another time I was exploring the airport and couldn't find any water. I thought that when my hydration meter reached 0 I'd die instantly, and to my surprise, nothing apparent happened when my character became fully dehydrated. I remember screaming on Skype to Pumpkin that lack of water doesn't actually kill you. Well, little did I know, my health started dropping, and when I realized what was going on because of my vision turning grey, it was already too late. Aside from that, compared to what happened in the following years, I didn't play that much. When 3.0 came out in full swing, I think I had somewhere around maybe 40 hours of playtime? Well, don't worry, that was going to change very soon. After playing 2.0 a bit and not really knowing how to access 3.0, I kinda forgot about this game. I spent the first part of the year mostly just playing on minigame servers in Minecraft. As the autumn came around, however, Pumpkin asked me in school if I wanted to play Unturned with him. He told me that they updated the shit out of this game and it was overall much better. I didn't have any plans for the afternoon, so I replied sure, why not? After coming home, I launched Unturned for the first time in about half a year and was shocked. Everything looked different, the colors were more saturated, the UI looked as shit, everything felt more refined. It was the first time I've ever played the 3.0 version of the game. After admiring the main menu for a minute or two, I joined the server my friend was playing on. It was a Yukon PvE server. From what I can remember, the server had TPA and you always spam a medkit and 3 MREs. Pumpkin told me to quickly find clothes if I didn't want to freeze to death. As I was looting the remote campsites of Yukon, I was still amazed by how much more refined everything looked. The gun animations, zombie models, even the everlasting blizzard looked cool as shit to me. Together we built a base next to the main road. It had some bedrolls and planters inside, and you can bet your ass that we've used wooden doors, I mean who hasn't? Not like it would have made a huge difference, as it was at the time when you could raid bases with melee weapons. I actually remember some asshole walking into our base and destroying some planters. Fucking cunt. Although for the most part, people on the server were very friendly, often even sharing cars and driving people to different places around the map. I really wasn't expecting people there to be so polite and nice to each other, having experienced a lot of toxicity in other online games prior. I'm honestly really happy that my first ever interaction with the Unturned community was actually really chill. Anyway, after playing for a couple hours, I logged off for the day while my friend kept farming loot. The next day, I walk into the classroom like the usual and Pumpkin fucking rushes at me. He tells me that he found an insanely rare weapon. Confused, I ask him, "What the fuck are you talking about?" After calming down a bit, he describes how he found some yellow SMG on a gas station. Apparently, it was the rarest gun on the map and its animations are badass as fuck. So, like the day before, after coming back from school, I jumped onto my computer and joined the Yukon server. In our surprisingly untouched base, my friend was already waiting for me with this new gun. He gave it to me and when I pulled it out, my mind was fucking blown. The gun he was talking about was a honey badger and just like he said, its animations were sick as fuck. Over the next few days at school, we both acted like we were doing the equip animations with empty plastic bottles while trying to recreate the sound of our voice. It was retarded as shit and we probably pissed off every single teacher in school, but we were 11, so who gives a shit. To this day, I'm still not sure if he actually found it at a gas station. Whenever I ask him about that, he assures me that he somehow did, but I don't know if it actually happened, he might just be making shit up. Either way, I ended up enjoying 3.0 a lot, and even after getting bored of the Yukon server, we kept playing on others. That was also around the time he introduced me to Unturned YouTube, but this time it was in English. The two main YouTubers he showed me were 2rgames and Me Like Big Boom. Throughout that year, I had kinda started watching foreign YouTubers, mainly DanteDM. Thanks to watching his videos, I could understand what they were saying quite decently well. Honestly, it's mainly thanks to them I can speak English so well today. You honestly couldn't get much better than Rose and Rose's hilarious vehicle builds. The BAF shit cracks me up to this day. It's thanks to these YouTubers the game stayed fresh for me. Even if I had a short break from the game, I still loved watching their stuff. After that Yukon server we played a lot of PEI, like a lot. The majority of my playtime in the early days was definitely on that map. By then we already knew about metal doors being locked for everyone else. What we didn't know about though were groups. This meant that we couldn't open each other's doors or lockers. We always needed 2 separate entrances to our base and I shit you not, one time I remember getting stuck in Pumpkin's part of the base. Most of the stuff I remember from this time is mostly just a blurry mess, but I remember much more from the next year. Speaking of which, it's time for the best year of my life. At the start of the year, we discovered workshop maps. Out of many other popular ones, Zombie World quickly became our favorite. Throughout the first half of the year, we've played a shit ton of this map. Well, understandably so, as a large map was a huge novelty at the time. We played tons of this map on PvE servers, building big bases and getting insane gear. I honestly like to play on it to this very day, even though it's very outdated by today's standards. So, we were vibing on that map like nobody's business, but then something new was added. Something huge, which would end up being a big part of the game for the coming years. the Arena game mode. Before that, neither of us were ever really interested in PvP. All we had were very YouTube events, creative servers, and normal survival. This realistically left us only with PvPing on survival servers, which wasn't really too exciting for us. We never really found any appeal in being able to lose all of our progress to another player, be it with them killing us in person or getting offline raided. I mean, obviously, don't get me wrong, I definitely get the appeal of this game mode for others, but it just isn't my cup of tea. Honestly, out of my 2700 hours, I've spent maybe 50 tops on PvP survival. But here there are no stakes, no loot to lose, nothing to get mad over. Even if you die, a new match would start within 5 minutes. You can just chill out and get into PvP without a single worry in the world. So we tried it out and we got absolutely fucked. No prior PvP experience definitely became apparent, so we put the game mode on the shelf. For the time being. Aside from that, nothing notable really happened at the beginning of the year. I mean, yeah, we're having lots of fun, but it was mostly just the same stuff I've talked about before. Chilling on PvE, meeting ridiculously nice players, and overall having a good time. But then, I've gained a legendary skill. After watching countless arena gameplays from 2R games, I have found the key to mass child obliteration. The third person mode! Also drop shotting, but yeah, mainly just third person. Almost nobody else was using it at the time, so despite my horrible aim, I was winning an arena match after match after Okay, you get the idea. Unlike me, Pumpkin decided to remain a first person purist, and I had to babysit him a lot while PvPing. Not like it was any kind of a challenge once you understood the basics, as your average Unturned player at the time was a Russian child playing on a shitty laptop in 15 FPS with a touchpad. I remember those retarded arena lobbies like it was yesterday. 3 people playing shitty music on top of each other at once. 9-year-olds screaming at each other about how they fucked each other's moms. And naked people fucking in the corner. And while nowadays the experience only differs by the lack of the horrendous voice chat compression and everyone sounding like an edgy 15-year-old instead of a mentally disabled child, those two things made arena lobbies 10 times funnier than they are now. To make the matters even better, Nelson added one of my favorite arenas ever, the paintball arena. It was such a simple yet amazing idea. I've always loved using shitty weapons, and with an entire arena based around them, I had an absolute blast playing there. Sadly, I can't ever find decent servers on this map these days. The only active ones are creative or PvP kits with guns, which break the balance of the map completely due to its open nature. Kinda makes me feel bad for not playing it more back in the day, but oh well. Despite our advances in PvP skills, if you can even call pressing a button skill, we still played on PvE servers when it came to survival. When we wanted some action we played arena, and when we just wanted to chill we played survival instead. It was honestly great. So we played on those two game modes. A lot. By then the end of the school year was very close, and what little schoolwork we had in the first place got reduced to basically nothing. I feel like most elite, epic gamers reach a point when they realize what their definitive main game, or a game franchise they play is, and for me that one was the summer of 2016. Overall, throughout these few months, thanks to having a ton of free time, I've played the shit out of this game, but what really stuck in my head was the experience I've had on one server. So, it's the start of July, the school year ended a few days ago, and it's like 36 degrees all the time, it hasn't rained in like 2 weeks, and if you go outside for 5 minutes you die of heatstroke, so yeah, overall, very epic. Like every other mentally challenged 12-year-old, instead of taking advantage of the nice weather outside, I just stayed indoors playing the funny zombie block game all day. I was looking for a new survival server to play on, and I joined one called Sharky's Survival, or something along those lines. It was of course PvE, and the map was PEI. What made this server stand out though was the fact that it was fully vanilla, so no commands like TPA or home. I spent the first few days on the server playing like on any other. Initial looting, building my base, that sort of thing. The server was decently popular, usually averaging around 10 to 15 players most of the time. After setting my base up a bit and getting some basic gear, I started to interact with the server community. Everyone seemed unusually social, even for PvE standards. All the time the chat was bustling with different conversations between players. Whenever we actually met in-game, almost always someone started a conversation ranging from just simply asking if the other person needed anything to discussing random real-life shit. Almost everyone was super chill and polite to each other, although I remember being unasked to one Russian guy. Sorry. I really can't understate how cool the atmosphere on that server was. Like, sure, I've met a couple of nice people on some servers before, but that shit was on a completely another level. Even after reaching the point of having more gear than I could have ever needed, every day I was still excited to hop onto the server to just simply chill with other players. When it came to my base, I've decided to go with a bit of an unusual design. Since Pumpkin was on vacation in Greece, I got an idea of building a hotel-looking like base with a swimming pool. The location I chose was Pirate's Cove, mainly thanks to countless metal nodes spawning nearby. What I realized later, though, was how cool this location actually looked like. The exposed orange rocks combined with the map's awesome lighting made for a very nice looking warm summer-like color palette. Another thing that I've noticed while building my base there was an abundance of other player-made structures in the area. Most notably a big metal base owned by some Romanian and a huge wooden one owned by a group of 2 or 3 people. After living in a 1x2 shit shack for a few days, I started to actually get to work on building that hotel. It had 2 main floors, an underwater blueberry farm, a pool and a Terraria jumping pad. By today's standards it doesn't look impressive in terms of size whatsoever, but for just a single player it ended up being quite cozy. My base was very close to the big group one, we're getting along with each other very well, and I even remember inviting them over to my base one time. I showed them around the place and the entire time they were all super chill and didn't even try stealing anything from me, even though they easily could have. The next day they invited me over to their base instead. We're chilling like yesterday when all of a sudden, one guy from their team pulled out a fucking tank from their garage. They let me jump into it, we drove around for a bit and it was hella fun. Let me reiterate this shit real quick. So this was a vanilla server, so no anti-grief or anything like that. And despite this, I've never been raided or griefed. On top of that, a bunch of random people I've met were chill with me visiting the insides of their base and driving in their fucking tank. And consider the fact that the stereotypical Unturned player is a toxic as shit Polish or Russian child who fucked your mom 50 times. What the fuck? That was one of the most memorable things that happened to me while playing on that server, and probably even Unturned in general. To be honest, this one single fucking server is the reason I've been planning to make this video for a few years by now. Ever since playing there for years, I've been looking for random PvE servers, trying to recreate the experience I had on Sharkies, but mostly to no avail. The server's admin was a streamer, and as its name suggests, his name was Sharky. I remember him telling us in chat that he was about to go live, and he even reprimanded me once for saying shit while he was streaming. Such as anything good, it doesn't last forever though. After about 2 weeks, the server started dying down pretty hard. Gone were the days of chilling with the guys from the group base, or anyone else on the server for that matter. At that point, I remember oftentimes being the only person online left. A few days later, the game mode changed from PvE to PvP, but it didn't really make a difference since nobody was really playing anymore. And 2 days later, the server was gone. I never got to show Pumpkin the hotel base I've built. To be honest, I didn't really know what I expected, as every single server dies down at some point, but I don't know, there was something special about that place, and its downfall left a shit taste in my mouth for a very long time. Well, there wasn't a whole lot of time for crying, as a new map was on the horizon. This single addition would change Unturned maps forever. Okay, no need to be so dramatic, you'll know what I'm talking about, it's Russia! This trailer with its amazing music was just something else. You also gotta love how MLBB made a 20-minute analysis out of a 30-second trailer. Needless to say, just like almost everyone else in the community, I was hyped as shit at the time! Remember the day of its release, basically every server wiped and changed to this map. That was including a zombie world server while building a cool skybase a day before, but who cares man, Russia's here! So, after the long wait, I hop into single player to check this map out. I look around and I was just like, okay, and fucking quit for the rest of the day! I remember the first time playing on it, I somehow managed to find an APC. They are rare enough normally, but if you're playing on an anti-grief server, where you can destroy vehicles to spawn new ones, it was the only one in existence on the entire server. No others would ever spawn. It instantly became invaluable to us thanks to its ability to extremely easily traverse the map. Because of its value, I've decided to, decorate it a bit one time I was in Kiev. About 70 scrap later, and there it was, in all its glory. The scary spider of death written with every spelling error possible. Also having 6 legs, instead of 8. This abomination was the greatest vehicle I've ever created, and I had Pumpkin dying from laughter for 15 minutes straight after seeing it for the first time. Aside from that, nothing really notable happened. The NPCs weren't a thing at the time, so after reaching the endgame we got bored and left. Going into autumn, both of us started middle school. Now, you might think that this made us have less time for playing video games, but for me it was still piss easy and I could still play Unturned all day. Pumpkin on the other hand didn't have it so well, but he still had plenty of free time. Throughout the rest of the year, nothing really interesting happened. I mean, yeah, we're having fun, but nothing super memorable. That was until December. We were playing on Yukon. In contrast to the rain outside, the icy wastelands couldn't have been more fitting for the festive season. On New Year's Eve, however, I got a festive gift drop. I opened it, and to my amazement, I received my first mythical skin ever. A Holiday Spirit elf hat. I still own it to this day, and even wear it every December. Man, what a way to end the year. And the next one isn't anything to scoff at either. At the start of the year, creative servers have started gaining immense popularity. Take everything good I've said about arenas and amplify it tenfold. No risk, no stakes, no penalty for death. Just grab a gun and start shooting children. It was the definition of chaotic fun. Fucking jets dogfighting in the sky, tanks shooting missiles everywhere, hinds hovering above the battlefield shooting everything that moves, LMG fire coming from all directions, snipers hiding in trees like bloody Viet Cong, all that action packed into a small area around Seattle. I mean, shit, some of these moments I remember were so cinematic they would have made Nilex proud. As soon as I heard about the existence of creative, I instantly jumped into them. Thanks to my prior experience on Arena and most other players being brain dead, playing there required no effort whatsoever. It was a relatively new environment for me though, so I preferred to stay close to the meta and, for some reason, took it very seriously. Throughout the year, my playstyle and attitude towards playing on creative changed dramatically. At the beginning of the year, I was what you'd probably call tryhard. Green skin, no cosmetics, only using meta weapons, talking shit in chat. I think I was one of the first people openly talking about green skins and Maple Strike me OP as shit in the art community, but in reality I was one of them at one point as well, but I realized at one point, if killing everyone is easy as shit, why even try? Why care? Every day I used a different weapon. This is how the game stayed fresh for me. If I were to use a plain assault rifle for more than 2 hours, I'd be bored to death. One time a sneaky sniper with a suppressed sabertooth, another time a complete lunatic, crushing everyone with a blunt force. Back in like February, I was acting like an absolute asshole. Every time I died, I was making excuses in chat about peeing or some bullshit like anyone cared. Towards the end of the year though, I kinda started to chill out and, you know, not taking a fucking block game as a life or death situation. Anyway, bursting these unusual weapons and strategies, winning PvP encounters regained their meaning. Killing children was satisfying again. By the end of the year, I couldn't look at universal weapons like the Maple Strike. Not because I couldn't kill people who were using them, but because using such weapons made the game insanely repetitive and boring. Hearing this gun is like an earache, Jesus Christ. I can't fucking stand it! This brings me to a certain server. This is a server I've spent the majority of my playtime in Unturned. It was Chingun fucking PvP. I knew about Freezer at the time, but that server had zombie and item spawns which lacked the game a lot. On top of that, there were also much more competent people playing there. But on Chingun, no items, no zombies, and most importantly, only retarded children. I cannot understate how much time I've spent on that single bloody server. So many hours, maybe even quadruple digits! Now, don't get me wrong, the server had a lot of issues. Annoying lag spikes, paid ranks with access to DMK2, abusive admins, but it was still an absolute blast playing there. Of course, as soon as anyone competent showed up, I had my stupid ass destroyed, but most of the time, I could easily dominate the entire server with minimal effort. destroying 4-5 man groups, raiding their bases all by myself. Because of my hegemony over the server, I quickly became quite well known in the Chingun community. Whenever I joined the server, there were always some people who were like, oh shit, Silver's here. But honestly, I was never really any good. It all were just the simple tricks that made me win arenas back in the day. Third person, drop shotting, jump shotting, I saw someone else was using them, and on top of that, unlike me had an actual aim, I was getting instantly obliterated. The only reason I was able to hit these fat clips from my shitty montages back in the day is because, frankly, most other people are just shit. Nowadays, whenever I join a PvP server and go off meta, I get fucking obliterated. I mean, sure, I'm definitely rusty, but it's mostly just because everyone knows how to press H. I have to make a confession that back in the day, I wasn't really aware of how shallow my PvP skills were. I remember being pretty cocky and thinking that I'm better than almost everyone else, while in reality, my inflated stats were all just thanks to random tactics I picked up from Tura Games or NTN. I mean, Jesus, I've even made a fucking PvP guide, please don't watch that pile of shit. Just like me, Pumpkin absolutely loved creative, so we obviously played together a lot. A person teaming up with me greatly expanded my gameplay possibilities. As an example, sometimes we would completely base our loadouts around flaying and maintaining a hind. One person piloting and the other one switching between the gunner seat and repairing the hell with a blowtorch in the passenger seat. I think creative gets a lot of bad rep because of the amount of sweats playing there these days, but back in the day, going off meta was definitely the way to go if we wanted to have fun. It literally says it in the name. Creative. So be creative with your playstyle. You can spawn anything in, you can do anything, there's no reason to limit yourself. I remember how once both of us decided to become jet pilots for the day. We geared up with pilot outfits, filled our inventories with HMG ammo, had some tools for vehicle maintenance, and only a Cobra for infantry combat. Shutdown Farm became our base of operations, where we came back to refuel and repair our planes. Yeah, it was roleplay as shit, but who cares, man? It was so much fun! Well, not only that, but I've also tried a lot of weird ways of killing people. Remember Crazy Seed? Well, I was basically doing the exact same thing. Another way of playing which we absolutely loved revolved around base raiding. While breaking into someone else's defenses was insanely engaging and heaps of fun, defending a base from never-ending waves of children was just something on a completely another level. Hastily repairing your defenses after a devastating tank missile, while 3 different people are trying to get into your base, made for some of the most tense and engaging experiences I have ever had in this game. These raid defenses could have taken easily over 2 hours and hundreds of lives of respawning children. Our favorite place to fortify was definitely the highest floor of the Bronze Skyscraper in Seattle, the most contested place on the entire map. Building a base there on a full server always guarantees tons of actions. However, as I've said before, defending bases wasn't the only thing we did with them. We have a lot of insane raids under our belts, possibly hundreds. Many times just the 2 of us have beaten all the odds and won a raid against multiple times larger groups than us. Well, of course, in reality these raids cannot really be compared with survival, thanks to no risk of losing loot. Pulling off shit like this made us 2 very well known in the server community. Speaking of which, we've met a lot of great people there. To this day I'm in contact with several of them. Ron and Andre were absolute legends. We teamed up often and called ourselves the Lenny Squad, due to our frequent use of Lenny faces in conversations. Sobs, Jabby, Red and Xex were also absolute giga chats. All of them were very good at the game, but were also always super chill and good sports about it. Countless times we've played on Chingun for hours, be it together or against, pulling off insane plays and clutches, and when the battles were over, everyone came back together like nothing happened. There are many other people I've probably forgotten about, but if you know who you are, give yourself a good pat on the back because you're all absolute legends. The server remained consistently active throughout the year, often switching to a new map which came out at the time like Germany or Greece, but in the end everything always returned to good old Washington. Chingun wasn't the only PvP server I've played on a lot. I also loved playing on World War II conquest servers, gun games, team deathmatches. There were always a lot of popular options, it really was the best time to PvP in Unturned. You might have noticed that I haven't talked about anything PvE survival related, and there's a good reason for that. I barely even played there. Nothing really interesting happened throughout the year. All the Russia updates were added back in 2016, and both Hawaii and Germany turned out to be giant flops. But then, On the 11th November, the first 4.0 devlog came out. That was like 4 years ago? Damn! A few days later, on the 23rd, I've also uploaded my first ever video on this channel. I've always liked siege montages Tumat and Antony Pete1 did, and I wanted to make something similar for Unturned. So I got some clips, tried editing them, and it was bad. A few videos in, I got my first subscriber ever, Tommy S. I think he's subscribed to me to this very day, so props to you, mate. And so, the year ended. Call me transitioning into the next one. While I remember 2018 being a pretty good year for games as a whole, with gems like Undertale 2, Canadian Winter Simulator 1886, not you! The aquatic update from Minecraft, and Super Meat Boy Wholesome Edition coming out, it didn't look so hot for Unturned. At the beginning of the year, there was a big decline in Unturned popularity. Servers started getting emptier day by day. Even Chingun started seeing days where it had less than 15 or even 10 players at peak hours. After the 4.0 announcement, many people decided to take a break from the game and wait for the new version to come out. At the time, everyone, including me, thought it wouldn't take more than a few months. Many big YouTubers left or became very inactive. Personally, I didn't really care that much, as I still just mostly wanted to play creative, but the lower player numbers quickly started becoming a problem for me. Whenever the amount of online players dropped below about 16 or so, usually not enough action was happening to hold my attention for long. Throughout the first half of the year, I've still played on Chingun whenever there was a spike in player numbers, but not nearly as much as in 2017. That was also the time I started hardly ever playing with Pumpkin. After the decline of Chingun, he got bored and didn't really play the game at all. Not to mention him being completely butt-fucked by school. Without many things to do, I started getting a bit bored of Unturned. I still was very closely following the state of the game and its community, but not really playing it a whole lot. Maybe checking out a new map when everyone came out, hopping on creative every now and then, but that was basically it. That was until summer. I had a fuck ton of free time and wanted to recreate the experience I had on Sharky's Survival back in 2016. I chose a pretty popular Washington server and got to work. Aside from PvP, my favorite activity in Unturned was always base building, so my main priority was building the biggest base I have ever built in survival. I closely checked the server rules to make sure that there are no stupid base size limits like they usually are on other PvE servers, so that I'm good and got to work. The river between Heritage Valley and the raceway was perfect. Before building my main base, I constructed a huge bridge available for everyone. It was an often visited area, and since there were no other ways of getting across the water in the area, I saw many players driving across the bridge to more quickly traverse the map. I based my main base around the bridge. I remember originally wanting to go for a big overhang over it, but I scrapped that idea and chose to go for a big home adjacent to the bridge instead. It wasn't just a place to store my loot in. I decorated the interior with a lot of furniture, even turning an entire floor into an artificial chill area with a balcony overlooking the bridge. I had a farm for every berry type, often making pies, cakes, pizzas and whatnot, sometimes giving them to other players. While I had a pretty good time on the server and greatly enjoyed building my base, it definitely fell short of my biggest one yet, not to mention the fact that the interactions with the server community weren't even close to what I experienced on Sharky's. Aside from that, I didn't do much Unturned related things throughout the rest of the year. Carpet came out in late summer, but it ended up feeling more annoying than challenging, mainly due to the low XP amounts and clothing storage spaces. Honestly, I remember at that point just wanting to play some good old creative, but it was very difficult to find many players in places other than Freezer. On top of that, even on Chingun, whenever there actually were any people playing, many of them were decently competent, so going off meta and having fun without sweating was starting to become increasingly difficult. Or maybe I'm just bad. For the rest of the year, I only played to get clips or videos. At that point, most of my time was spent playing Terraria and Siege. With no 4.0 release in sight, it kinda started feeling like Unturned as I knew it was actually ending. "2019 was probably the darkest year in Unturned history. Not many good survival maps, the lowest player numbers in history, and still insanely far from 4.0 coming out. For me, it also was the year of what you'd call the teenage edgelord phase. The weather was cold and rainy the entire year, so yeah, overall it was all pretty shit to be honest. It didn't stop me from having fun with the game though. I honestly think that I actually had more fun with it this year than in 2018. Around January, I remember finding a certain Lime server. I wasn't usually keen on playing on their network as, despite the insanely friendly community, there were strict base building limits as well as heavy lag because of the amount of mods. But this server was special. Very special. So special in fact that I go as far as to say that this was the best Unturned survival experience I have ever had by a long shot. It was a hard mode server. I've always really liked this difficulty mode as it completely changes the way you play the game, but unfortunately I was never able to find good servers with this setting. But not only that, just like any other Lime server, it had its usual pack of mods. While most of them revolved around additional furniture, which, don't get me wrong, were a cool addition, one mod in particular took the spotlight, the more farming mod. This is one of the best mods I have ever seen, making an already great survival experience 10 times better. Playing on that server wasn't such a walk in the park as usual. The game definitely managed to catch even a very seasoned player like me off guard, and I remember even dying a couple of times, but this is what made it fun. I was the only regular player on the server, which I thought was pretty funny as everyone at the time was screaming at Nelson for Unturned not being a challenging survival game. Because of hardly ever seeing other players online, you could say that the experience wasn't too far off from single player, but I'd say that it was something in between, thanks to many plugins making the game less tedious. Despite all the limitations usually imposed by Lime servers, I still had an absolute blast playing there. And if I still can have fun on a server without being able to build a giant base, that definitely says something. But then, after a few weeks, the server closed without any warning. It was to be expected, to be honest. Aside from me, basically nobody played there, and it just wasn't profitable to keep it running. For me it was a big bummer, but oh well. A few days later though, a new arena map was released. After over a year without any interesting PvE experiences, we finally got something new, creative and most importantly popular. Canyon Arena is easily tied with Paintball from my favorite arena map ever. While sometimes there was some bullshittery stemming from the border cutting you off, overall it was a very unique and fresh PvP experience. Servers on Canyon Arena were popping up left and right, finally allowing me to play some interesting PvP on populated servers. I really liked how every gun had its place on this map. You had the shotgun for close ranges, the rifle for longer ones, and the revolver which was pretty mediocre for all ranges. Of course, there were many brain-dead server admins who thought it was a good idea to make it creative or add kits with vanilla weapons. Thank fuck there were many vanilla ones I could play on. While normal guns weren't completely breaking the balance like on Paintball Arena, it took away everything which made the map unique, so at this point like, why not play Alpha Valley or Athens Arena or something like that instead? I enjoyed the map so much that I even made a PvP montage on it. It's also the way the big man himself found out about my existence, so spending $30 on cowboy skins was worth it after all, huh? Sometime later, another map got released, Belgium. Despite all the shit surrounding throughout this map, I had an okay experience playing there. It felt like a slightly above average workshop map, although the acid bundle was absolutely amazing. I also met a guy named Tom Painter who was an absolute giga chad, but overall not much else. Belgium came and went to be mostly forgotten like Ireland or Cyprus. Around that time I reached two big milestones. The first one was 2400 hours of playtime, granting me the no-life beret to flex my vitamin D deficiency on others, and the second one was reaching 100 subscribers on YouTube. At that point I was completely burnt out on making videos though, so I greatly slowed down with uploads. Despite those two achievements, until September I didn't really play Unturned at all. Maybe only to get clips for videos if I was making one, but usually just ended up playing other games. Mainly Siege, as I remember fighting some cool people there at the time. As September came around though, it was time for high school. Now you might think that I'd need to spend more time on studying instead of wasting on video games, but you'd be greatly mistaken. Just like in middle school, I still didn't have to work jack shit to get good grades. Another thing that happened in September was another Danabi PvP map. Just like Canyon Arena, it felt fresh and was loads of fun. It was pure chaos, and while not as good as creative back in the day, it was definitely the best thing we had at the time. Because I was greatly enjoying it, I tried to make a PvP montage on it. Unfortunately, literally 2 days after its release, everyone fucking forgot about it. I shit you not, there are absolutely zero popular servers. That meant that I had a very limited amount of clips to work with, so what was originally planned to be a 3-minute shitpost turned into this fucking thing. I mean, I still think it was a good video, which definitely says something, as there are very few of my old videos I actually like, but let's just say it didn't end up being what I originally planned it for. After that, I was completely and absolutely burnt out on both Unturned and making videos. Making PvP montages was tedious, repetitive, boring and difficult because of the low amount of active players on creative. By then, Chingun was completely dead. It usually had like 3 players online. Even fucking Freezer, the home of tryhards, was only decently popular to doing peak hours. So I left. For the remainder of the year playing a certain 2D game that you should definitely buy, as it offers lots of great gameplay and replay value for its very cheap price, not to mention. You all know what year comes after 2019, right? Oh god. In January and February I was still playing Terraria, and in March, well, we all know what happened in March. So there I was, just like everyone else, stuck at home. I had way too much free time on my hands. Too much even for just playing video games. I needed to do something else. Was I going to use this time productively? Who do you think I am? I returned to making videos by doing a shitpost for April Fools, and later on making a shitty meme every now and then. Later, in May, I made my last PvP montage. Not really sure why I did this to myself, as getting clips was an absolute pain because I had to play on that shithole called Freezer. But I'm pretty happy with how the video turned out in the end. Throughout spring, I still didn't really play Unturned, unless I had to get clips for videos. While the player numbers slightly rose due to everyone else being stuck at home, there wasn't any new interesting stuff happening. But then, we're blessed by Danabi II and his Blender slave Renaxon. We got fucking Elver. It was exactly what we needed. Something new and unique. The not exactly realistic setting, the weapon balance, the keycard system for dead zones, making fishing somehow viable. It also has the best attention to detail I have ever seen. All the fucking bottles and rubble and shit laying on the ground, the environment sounds, you just don't get that on any other maps, well, at least on that scale. Of course, just like many other people, I jumped right into this map on the day of its release. The first day was going like always, initial looting, getting to know the map, farming XP, the usual stuff. After about an hour, I hit my first roadblock though. I wanted to build a base, but didn't have a blowtorch to create a metal door. But then, this absolute giga chad, a guy named the Magic Dude, lent me his blowtorch to do my crafting. Throughout the next few days, I was trying to get access to the safe zone. I lacked the materials for the Horde beacon though, mainly the elusive graphics card. I had the same problem with the military radio, but quickly got around it by running into the dead zone while spamming dressings, and easily finding it there. While I could have used the same method for obtaining the graphics card, I didn't know that it spawned in the DZ at the time, so I was just camping GameStop 24/7. I got so desperate that I even started fishing, but about 3 hours in I realized that to fish one up, you need an MK2 rod, which is only available in the safe zone. As our bases were very close, near the Fisherman's Grove, I often met the Magic Dude unsuccessfully trying to fish out the elusive card. It seemed as if everyone on the server had problems with getting access to the safe zone. But finally, after about 20 hours of playtime and making a fucking spreadsheet of GameStop item spawns, I finally got it. And after that, everything flew by. I quickly got through all the quests, saw the tower collapsing, met Nelson, and quit the server as I basically had nothing else to do. And aside from that, I didn't really play Unturned anymore that year. Sure, Elver got some cool updates, but they didn't overhaul the map enough to get me back into it. Something else interesting happened though. The notorious Twitter retard Dragon Beast, who was watching my videos for a while, asked me if I wanted to join the Uncrafted SMP. I declined as I didn't know anyone there at the time, but this event kickstarted the process of me getting more involved in the Unturned community. It all started with me making an account on that shitty Bluebird website, and by shitposting I got to know some pretty cool people. But that mainly happened the next year. Thanks to interacting with the Unturned community way more frequently, I wanted to play the game itself again. Like, you know, not just for a video, but to actually enjoy it as something to do in my free time. PvP was obviously off limits when it came to having fun and chilling out, as everything was populated exclusively by world-class sweats. So I looked into my next favorite thing, PvE survival. I had a plan of building yet again my biggest base ever. I've had an idea of making a video describing my Unturned story for a few years by then, and even started planning out some stuff related to it, but in January I finally felt like it was the time to get working on it. Before I started writing the script or anything along those lines, I needed to refresh my memory a bit. Because of that, I wanted that giant base to be a combination of all of my previous bases I built throughout my Unturned adventure, to, as I've said, mainly refresh my memory a bit and maybe also hit a few cool screenshots. With my goals set, all that remained was finding a good server. All of the little hope I had for finding a hard mode one got instantly squashed after a short look at the server browser. On easy mode though, as usual, finding a PvE server wasn't a problem whatsoever. My map choice was Russia, mainly thanks to its large size and NPC quests giving me more stuff to do in the late game. The only challenge that remained was finding a server without those annoying ass base building limits. Like, I get that it's supposed to reduce lag, but come on man, the fuck am I supposed to do on PvE aside from building a giant piece of base? One surprisingly short search later, I've made my choice. A server called Real Productions. It wasn't very popular, but with my goal being to just build a big base, social interaction was a secondary concern for me. After joining, I noticed that the server had toxicity backpacks and the more farming mod, which would make the construction process go much more smoothly. A few hours in, I've already looted the dead zone, obtaining many weapons, mining tools and modded endgame high storage clothing. With most of the basic stuff taken care of, I started laying down the foundations. The spot I chose for my base was north of Petersburg, next to the bridge. Pinewood was an abundant resource in the area, so this is what I've used. I built a small 1x2 base next to the construction site to store my loot in. I built a big, 2-storied bridge to be the center of the base. Basically an upgraded version of what I had in my 2018 Washington base. With the foundations down, it was time to put walls and windows in place. Making a big, shit-colored wooden blob wasn't the way I wanted to go though. You see, the server had the more farming mod, which allowed for crafting bricks by smelting metal. This gave me an idea of recreating the color palette of Union's base from Unturned Reality Seasons 1 and 2. It was a series I remember insanely enjoying back in the day, and a brick base with birch pillars would just simply look cool as shit, so this is what I've decided to go with. That decision complicated the building process a lot though. First off, the conversion rates on metal to brick are fucking abysmal, so making a brick base would cost me basically just as much as making a metal one. On top of that, I need a ton of birch wood, which is available all the way across the map. Somehow, with a stroke of dream luck, I've managed to find a train. It might have been locked and I might have used a steel on it, but shut up! Don't tell anyone. This allowed me to transport large quantities of birchwood in no time, as well as granting me relatively easy access to the Liberator. Running back and forth to Kyriev to get metal was still kinda annoying, but manageable enough for me to start the second phase of construction. The plan was simple, all the floors and roofs were already in place, all I needed to do was to just place some pillars and walls. Sounds simple, right? Well, not quite. Remember when I said that the conversion rates on metal to brick were complete shit? Well, I was insanely quickly burning through my metal supplies. Sure, every Kyriev trip gave me about 180 scrap, which translated into about 20 walls or windows, but for a building on that scale, that's nothing! Time required to mine all of the rocks wasn't the problem, it was the respawn time on them. Kyriev has only a finite amount of metal nodes, and once you get through all of them, all you can do is just wait for them to respawn. On one of my trips to the Liberator to turn some quests in though, I got an idea. I had thousands of experience points laying around and not really doing anything with them. I planned to spend all of them on buying knives from Lieutenant Kyle and scrapping them. Luckily, to make these trips less annoying, I've managed to find a red off-roader in front of a small birch base. With all of the logistical constraints taken care of, the only thing limiting the metal I could gather was the amount of time I was willing to put into playing on the server. I've spent countless e-lessons on gathering resources instead of listening to my teachers over their laggy connections. After a few days, I've put around 40 hours of playtime into the server, and the base was finally starting to look good. Well, maybe aside from that fucking ramp, I've got no idea why I didn't just build the bridge completely straight, like what the fuck is this? By then, I've already fully moved in, built an underwater base for pump jacks, and even started furnishing the interior. I've also decided to pimp my ride a bit. I tried recreating the scary Spider of Death, and despite my vehicle not being an APC, it had all of the other qualities of the original, so I was pretty happy with how it turned out. So we have parts of my 2018 Washington base, Unturned Royal Union's base, the scary Spider of Death 2.0, what else was there? On the top of my main house, I built a tower of a jumping pad, just like on Sharky's in 2016. And the biggest thing of them all, in the center of the base, my Unturned Memorial. I wrote down all of the cool people I've met along the way, and all the cool stuff we lost forever. The entire hall had mannequins wearing cosmetic sets I've used throughout all of the years playing this game. Not wanting to make the same mistake as I did with almost everything else I've talked about in this video so far, I made sure to take multiple screenshots of this base and upload them to the Steam cloud. With everything done, I quit the server to regenerate my energy for the next big thing that was coming very soon. Elver was getting the biggest update since its initial release, and I was pretty excited to try it out, along with all of the features from the smaller updates I've missed in 2020. This time, I've somehow managed to find a GPU the first time I ever looked into GameStop, so that was pretty cool, I guess. By the end of the first day, I was already getting myself busy with the save zone quests. I built my base inside of the Bunker B, as I was still quite exhausted from the giant base I built a week before, although honestly the bunker probably gave me more living space than a base could as I was playing online. Well, either way, I got through all of the quests within a week, including the godforsaken fishing BS, and I was finally getting into the newest, spicy stuff. The puzzles from the 4 portals were absolutely fucking mind-blowing, and honestly I had no idea you could even do most of this stuff in Unturned. Although I have to say that in comparison to all of this amazing build-up, the final Nelson boss was pretty underwhelming in terms of difficulty. I fisted him to death on hard mode later though, so that was kinda cool I guess. By then, I still wasn't really doing much progress on that video, mainly just planning out some stuff. But then Mr. Spammel released his own tribute to Unturned. Now, I don't care what some people say about him, but this video is fucking amazing! The fact that it has only 11,000 views is a fucking crime! So go watch it and like it after this video. This is not optional. Despite our videos having a lot of differences between them, it was a big inspiration for me and reassured me that it really was the right time to finally make my tribute a reality. During the rest of February and March, I wrote most of the script and chose all of the music ideas, and recorded the voiceovers in April. Another thing that happened around that time was the British fuckwit Dragon Beast making the Community Hub Discord. Since I was one of the first people involved, I became one of the FAT admins. Now, I know that the server is a fucking dumpster fire, but honestly the only thing that mattered to me was meeting a shit ton of cool people. Sure, thanks to shitposting on Twitter I became loose acquaintances with people like Zeman, Doug or Kukui Charles, but that server is what really made me become a semi-relevant member of the community. There I got to know amazing people like Ionus, Dornold, Leon, Trident Games, Vichu Vitek, and the biggest fucking gigachat of them all, Staswell. On top of that, thanks to participating in Sugarbear's stream events, I got to know her and also Liamdo's game, who are probably some of the most chill people in the entire community. During the second part of April, I finally started editing the video. The biggest time sink was definitely recording clips. Luckily, I had the entire first week of May off and devoted it entirely to editing this video by putting about 7 hours a day into it. I was fucking dead afterwards, but I went from the second half of 2016 to finishing 2020 within 5 days, so that was kinda epic. During the rest of May, I slowed down with the progress on the video, mainly because apparently Unturned Royale was happening again on the upcoming Kuwait map. I was very skeptical about joining the event at first, as I was fully expecting it to be a fucking sweatfest with greenskins on a desert map, but Staswell invited me to his team. Initially I was unconvinced, but after he told me that all he wanted to do was just to fuck around and do a little trolling, I decided to join in. Our team was called the Irish Republican Army and consisted of me, Dragon, Leon, Lama Liam, Stas and Vitek. Despite our shitpostery team squad and goals, I was still very skeptical when it came to us actually being able to have fun in the event. I was fully expecting everyone to kill on sight, not giving us a chance for any funny interactions with other players. Well, by then, no matter what I was expecting, it was too late to pussy out of the event, so all that remained was wait for the 14th of May and find out for myself. And as much as I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. The event started about half an hour after the map officially came out. Within minutes, the server and its queue filled up to its max capacity, not allowing many people to play during the first few hours. Initially, keep in mind the word initially, I was actually surprised by how friendly the people I've met were. During the first day, I've been KO'd only once by a green skin called I'm Sad. As much as the fact of these players even existing on a private server which was supposed to be a community event was pretty dumb, what I went through was actually considered to be pretty lucky. Sure, there are a lot of chill people that I knew who were playing, but Leah, for example, got spawn killed by green skin sweats 3 times. Understandably so, most of the YouTubers playing there were fucking pissed. So the second day was decided to be PvE. Despite the game mode change, almost everyone who remained after the first day Cancerfest was incredibly hostile. They were griefing, insulting each other in chat. I've even heard the Game Award a few times. While playing during the second day, I saw 2 people in Kuwait City running for their lives from a zombie horde screaming for help. Since on the first day everyone was struggling with the environment, it didn't seem suspicious to me whatsoever, so I ran up to them and started clearing around the zombies. Then suddenly, one of them shot a burning zombie near me and I barely got out alive. That was the final straw. Yeah, sure, I got epically trolled, but it wasn't about them insulting my non-existent intelligence by tricking me. After that encounter, I knew that it was too late to save the event. The next day, that place would just go back to being a war zone. Sure, we could have geared up that day to be prepared for the upcoming PvP, but that wasn't why I've signed up for that event in the first place. I wanted to be there to meet cool people, to chill with them, to do some funny shit together, and then maybe do some PvP on the side. But those fucking sweats by KOSing removed any possibility of doing that. Don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against people playing this way on survival. After all, it's the most efficient way of getting loot. But the thing is, because of that, a private event just turned into a survival PvP server like any other. Originally, I was expecting most other people playing to carry on like before, but almost every YouTuber playing there shared my opinion and left too. So, I guess I was just going to explore Kuwait on myself, on PvE like every other map before. Or so I thought. Being just as pissed as I was at the failure of Royale, Kukui and Zimen decided, nah, fuck that, we're gonna make our own server. Unlike Manu's one, they weren't going to invite any randoms, only YouTubers and permanent community members. At first I thought that it wouldn't get much traction, but within a few minutes lots of people were starting to join. You know how I've talked about how much I've always missed the experience on Sharkies, how much fun I've had on that Russia hard mode server, about how throughout all of the years playing this game, I kept chasing every opportunity of recreating these experiences. Well, it turns out that after all this searching, it came to me on its own. This shit was the best Unturned experience I have ever had. This shit was better than building that mega base, better than hard mode Russia. I'd even say that it was on par with fucking Sharkies. Everyone was insanely chill and friendly, the map was challenging and awesome, I built a cool ass base. It all started with, actually no. Enough of this shit. I've been constantly talking over your ear about these random servers for the last 50 minutes. What if this time we'll just let the gameplay do the talking? Well, that was a lot of stuff to talk about, and even so, I've only scratched the surface. I remember way more shit from my 2800 hours of experience. But I've got to draw the line somewhere, this video is long enough as it is. This is when you step in. As I've said at the beginning of the video, I strongly encourage you to comment your own story. Not everyone has played this game as much as I have, and there's no shame in that. This just means you have a social life. Describe a single adventure you remember fondly, or if you really want to, your entire story in a 3000 word essay. The choice is yours. I know that this isn't the kind of a video you'd expect from a below average memer like me, but this topic has been on my mind honestly since even before creating this channel. What I really like about this subject is that it's basically universal amongst all long-time Unturned players. We've all experienced the same events, they just impacted us in different ways. Whether nowadays you roleplay or sweat on freezer all day, we've all seen events like the Russia release. All of us have seen Unturned grow and it's been a big part of our childhoods. All of this makes you wonder, what will the future of Unturned bring us? Will 4.0 manage to take us back into the good old days like everyone hopes for? Well, only time will tell.